It's always good to be back home. It's good to see old faces again, hear familiar voices, and then see new faces and meet new people as well. So that's always encouraging whenever you come back and see some new faces and people you haven't seen before. So that's always a good thing. But it is wonderful to be here with you guys. We just want to share with you kind of what's been going on. We realize it's not too long that the church supports two missionaries in the same field as you guys support us and Nathaniel and Stacy. We also realize it's even rarer that those two missionaries would come back within a couple months of each other, as Nathaniel was just with you guys not too long ago. But we'll give you a more recent update of what's going on with the church and kind of what's going on in our lives. So we just want to start kind of life for us. Work, these are some pictures of me at work. Mom and Dad were able to come out and visit a little bit ago, and Mom took pictures at work. I typically don't take pictures at work because it's work, you know. But I work for Sears still. I've been with Sears for 8 years now. The store I was the assistant manager at a retail store. They closed that store. When that store closed, I transferred into the logistics side of Sears. So basically any of the home delivery. So if anybody from Idaho down to central Utah and the Nevada on the west and Colorado and Wyoming on the east, if anybody orders an appliance or a TV or a treadmill, something they want delivered to their home, it's going to go through my desk before it gets delivered. I particularly am in charge of what they call commercial sales, so I handle if they're building a new apartment complex. We have a sales rep that'll go out and say, you know, we'll sell you all 150 apartments full of appliances for this amount. Sears wins the bid. It's my job to then schedule with the contractor who's building the apartments when he's going to be ready for the appliances and making sure we get him in on time so that he can turn the building over to the owners and they can start renting and making money. So that's particularly what I do. I'm standing there holding Kaylee beside a clamp truck. That's typically, if you've ordered an appliance in the last 10 to 15 years, that's what moved it before it got to your home. It's basically a forklift without forks, because you can't lift a lot of things up with forks. It squeezes it and just uses pressure to move it around, but it's the same basic operation. So I spend a lot of my day on that, a lot of my time in front of a computer looking at spreadsheets and addresses and product codes and things like that. But I put in about 45 hours a week at work. It used to be much more than that, but they just cut back on my overtime so that we're not allowed to get any overtime anymore. So the extra 5 hours is, I get mentioned to me quite a bit, but it would be impossible to get my job done without those extra 5 hours. So I work about 45 hours a week at work. That's not including the 45-minute one-way commute that I have. So it's about an hour and a half added onto each day for the commute to get to work. And then I do up to about 25 hours of dedicated office time or scheduled work at the church. There are weeks when it's much more than that, where I'm not specifically doing something, but I'm doing other things going on. If I have to preach, typically that 25 can go up significantly if I'm preaching that week, because there's a lot of extra study and preparation that'll go into that. Thankfully, that number average is a little bit lower now because we just had a young couple move out from West Virginia. They've actually been up here a little bit before. Tyler Dial and his wife Laura just moved out to take over our music. So I used to spend that amount of time on music alone in a week. Now, thankfully, I just have to show up for practice and know the music, so I don't have to worry about scheduling it out, coordinating who's playing music. We have 2 full bands that we rotate between, so I don't have to worry about coordinating and scheduling all that anymore. So that's a big praise. And then Gregan's work life, she's now with the 2 girls. She's now a mother of 2, so she puts in far more hours than I could ever put in. So she works nonstop 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, taking care of them. I'll often call her on my way home from work, and she'll apologize because, you know, the house didn't get completely cleaned or something. And I say, well, are both kids alive? And hey, way to go. You know, that's an accomplishment with a 2-year-old sometimes. So that's what work life looks like for us. The place I'm at now, there's only 5 other people or 6, we just hired one more, that work with me in this warehouse. We have various delivery teams that will be in and out, so it's pretty significant contact with those 6 people. It's not like where you work a big job with hundreds of people and you kind of get lost and don't know everybody. There's been some relationship issues and some tension with my peer. There's only one other guy that can do the job that I do in the building, and he's been with Sears for over 35 years, and so he sees me as a threat as the young guy coming in trying to kick him out, which I have absolutely no desire to do. I've tried to make that clear to him. But so it's caused some tension, and how I've dealt with that has been a witness to Anne, is our clerical lady who works about 4 feet away from me, and she's mentioned to me on multiple occasions how she doesn't understand how I can have the attitude I have towards the coworkers that I have, given what they've done to me, and why don't I just do this and retaliate in some way. And by being able to explain to her the grace that's been given to me in Christ in my life, it's just an opportunity. So if you think about it, you can pray for Anne. Everyone else that I work with is LDS, except for one other gentleman who would probably proclaim atheism or some form of agnosticism. He's a former Marine who served 8 years in Iraq and Afghanistan, and all over the globe, really. And so he's very rough around the edges, so to speak, especially when you put him inside the LDS culture that is Utah, where most people put on a facade, even if that's how they would be at home or with their friends when they're in public. They put on an extra facade to make sure that everybody thinks they're okay. He is not that kind of guy, so he'll tell you exactly how he feels with a few expletives in the middle of that. So his name is John, but he's probably the most open, other than Anne, to hearing anything that I would have to say, just because he isn't walled off, and he's been around the world, and so he's more open to ideas that aren't his.
Well, if you've been around Kaylee for more than 5 minutes, you know she's busy. So she's a go girl. And Ashley she's just turned 3 months, so she's now learning how to roll over. And while we've been out here this week, she's learned how to do with her tongue. So that's her accomplishment, right? As far as my health goes, I don't know where to start or end. It's been quite a journey. I started 4 weeks after I had Ashley started just not feeling well. I've been to, I don't even know how many specialists now, but I've just been having severe abdominal pain. My first episode, they had to take me by ambulance, and still couldn't figure out what was wrong. But so I just have episodes of severe pain. I have about a 5-minute warning that if I don't take any medicine by that time, then I'm probably going to be in the hospital. But I'm very thankful that they found some medicine that will help me. I've had countless episodes since she was born, so the past 2 months have been pretty busy with that. I got to experience an Ohio hospital while I've been visiting here on Friday. So I went to Mercy Hospital. That's another episode then. So they've been having like seizure-like symptoms as well, with abdominal pain. I've been very blessed by God's grace to have people with me when I have them. I haven't been home alone with the girls, and that's been one of my big fears, is having an episode where I can't talk or move. with my hands, before I got here, they did some nerve testing, and they feel like I might be losing the motor skills in my hands, which is important to me being a mom, and also I still teach guitar and play guitar. So they're giving me 6 weeks to try to wear carpal tunnel braces to see if that will help. If not, they are contemplating doing surgery. So be prepared for that. Nice to have my hands.
Yeah, it's been, we've had 2 ambulance rides, 6 ER visits, and that's over the course of about a month and a half, since April 13th. The first one happened, we were finally on a date for the first time in about 6 months, and we were out to dinner, and she said she didn't really feel that good, and she got up and said she was going to go to the bathroom, and she turned around and said, "I'll be in the car, we're leaving now." And so I was like, oh, okay. So I had to quickly wait her down and pay the bill and everything and get her there. But that's kind of been the way it is. Praise God, our church family has been unbelievable with taking the girls, watching them, with bringing meals. We get, because of my work schedule and her health, they bring us meals a couple times a week just to help out. A couple ladies just showed up. We came home from a doctor's appointment, and the house was completely clean. And one of the ladies just showed up, did laundry, cleaned the house, did the dishes, vacuumed, wiped everything down, and just out of the kindness of their hearts. So God really has blessed us with a great church family who's been incredibly supportive. Sometimes it's scary being as far away from family as we are. Her parents are close; they're only about 3 hours away, but still having church family we have one couple that's a minute and a half away, and their willingness at the drop of a hat to come over and do what's needed has been a real blessing in that.
Oh, yes. What's really fun is we have, they just built an aquarium, I believe, last year near us, and it is one of Katie's very favorite things. I think she's going to be a marine biologist when she gets older. She absolutely loves the aquarium. She calls it the Blue Building. And she knows more marine wildlife than I know. She'll come up to Mom and tell me what a cuttlefish is, and I can't even think of the things that she knows, but she loves the aquarium. And since Grandma and Papa came out a couple months ago, when Ashley was born, she now requires to go on adventure walks. And does not like to walk on sidewalks anymore. She likes to explore in the grass. Sports, I think, would be more.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of free time or discretionary income, but when I do get a chance, I do like to get out and golf. If anybody likes to golf or knows anyone that likes to golf, Utah has some of the most beautiful courses. Even if you don't like to golf, some of the scenery that you get to see on the courses there is just unbelievable. So we enjoy that. We do enjoy, Gregan loves watching HGTV and all the renovation shows and the redecorating and those kinds of things. The one she likes I can't stand, because there's always one person in the couple wants to do this and the other person wants to do that, and they just talk about it, don't argue, don't be mad about it with each other. Like, drives me insane.
I watch that when he's not home.
Yeah, she's gracious in that, but I also enjoy, I take one of the kids in the youth group that I'm doing some discipleship with. I take him and we go disc golfing. So I like to get out and do what I can. Utah's great for outdoors, hunting, fishing, hiking, skiing, any of that. It's amazing. You can drive less than an hour any direction and get to one of the top spots in the country to do one of those activities, whether it be hunting or fishing. They hunt bear, moose, elk, mule deer, sheep. You name it, they hunt it there. Outdoors is a huge thing there, and I like to get out as much as I can. Like I said, with work and church being the way it is right now, it's not as often as we'd like, but we try and get out. As far as youth ministry goes, these are some pictures of our youth group here. The one in the top right, and then the two on the top actually, both are from our spring retreat this year. We talked about putting on the armor of God, so that's one of our girls wearing a Spartan helmet there. And then we actually were able to do it on a military camp, and so the picture just beside that are the kids trying to go through a military obstacle course. They have, at the start of the course, they have objectives that they have to meet, but there's different stipulations in how they can accomplish that goal, and they have to work together as a team and communicate. It's really good for finding out. It was really good to watch the kids work in groups and see who the natural leaders were, so I could see kids that I needed to, encourage a little bit, and noticing that, hey, you're naturally a leader, kids are listening to you and following you, let's encourage you and how we can disciple you into a more important leadership role. On the bottom right is at one of our big youth events. We try every 2 months, we get together with 2 other area churches and combine our youth groups and have a big youth night. We always do something fun. And we always make sure at some point there's a devotional or gospel presentation. At this particular event, I think we had about 35 kids. We've had events that have gone up to 100 in a single night. But that's a good opportunity when you're in a place like Utah that's so densely populated with a different religion. The teenagers often feel isolated and alone. A lot of our kids are the only one of maybe 2 Christians in their entire school, and as a result, not only religiously in what they believe are they ostracized, but parents will encourage other kids to avoid social contact with them and outside of school. And yes, you can talk to them in school because you have to, because they're there, but don't go to their house, don't hang out with them, don't go to the movies with them, whatever. So our kids feel pretty alone. So doing these bigger events with our kids has been good for them to be able to see other Christians that maybe they didn't know went to their school, and make those connections and network and have that encouragement. The picture on the bottom left, I like to every now and then I'll divide the kids into groups and make them work through the text in a group and then explain it to the other group. So one group might get the first half of the chapter, then the other group gets the second half, and they have to work through their portion and then communicate what that portion means to the other group, and then they'll have to work together to see how the first half of that chapter connects to the second half and what the applications can be. And so that the kid up by the whiteboard there, his name is Cyrus. That's who I've been able to do some discipleship with. And so that's him sharing. I believe the passage he had in that picture was in Ephesians, but that's some of our youth group there. We've been averaging about 15 kids, but it's been up to 20. We've had 22 on a Wednesday night, but with school and sports, it's been a little inconsistent. This is the youngest youth group that I've had since I've been in Utah. I have 4 kids that will be seniors next year. Everyone else is younger than a sophomore in high school. So quite a big gap there. Usually I have a high school heavy group. This season it seems to be more of a middle school heavy group. So it's a little bit of an adapting process for me. I have to get used to again how to deal with the middle school boys, which is the hardest part. Middle school girls, it's still easy. Boys, it's a little harder to deal with them. But it's been good. While they're the youngest, they are some of the most knowledgeable as far as the Bible goes. They are some of the most knowledgeable that I have. Part of that is their parenting. Their parents have been instilling that in them. The other part is they seem to genuinely care. Even though it's a young group, which is rare. Usually when you're talking to a younger group, you get a lot of blank stare and a lot of looking around for something that is more interesting than the guy talking. But they seem to genuinely care what's being taught and how it meets them where they are. So that's good. Even though it's a young group, it is encouraging. As far as the church itself goes, we are growing. We still don't understand how or why. I don't have an exterior shot of the building, but if I showed you an exterior shot, and you can actually go on Google Maps and look up the street view, you can see the outside of our building. And if you saw the outside of our building, you would understand why we can't figure out how we're growing, because it looks like an old bar, which is what our building is. But that's what it still looks like. But we've grown. We had to move to 2 services. We did a trial run of 2 services a year ago on Easter to see how, as a church, we could handle that capacity. Then starting this year, we've gone to 2 services. Actually, starting in I believe just before Christmas. To be honest, I can't remember. It's been a while. But we had to go to 2 services. Between those 2 services, we average about 180 people through the door. That include of that 180. This is the part that's hard for us to deal with. Is of those 180 between 2 services, about 110 of that is adults. So there's 70 kids under the age of from 10 and under that we have to have classrooms and teachers to be able to support, which is where we're running into issues with. But these are some pictures. We just completed a stage renovation. You can kind of see right here, that guy walking out of the screen is Dad. He came out, and of course, being on vacation and visiting, he couldn't not be working. So he came out and he helped us do. We added this extension on the stage, so he helped me frame that up the first day, and then the second day, this guy, his name is Jeff. He came back and helped him get it all set up and everything. And so Dad came out and was able to help us with that. The pictures on the bottom there are these. Yeah, these 2 here are finished stage now. It used to be bare cinder block walls all behind the stage, and it caused a lot of acoustical issues being behind the stage with the music. Heating issues. There was 0 insulation in the cinder block walls, so during the winter you could feel it. The closer you got to that wall, you could feel the cold. And if you were sitting in the first 3 rows of the auditorium, you had to keep your winter coat on the whole time during the service. And then during the summer, it was the opposite. It was like an oven, and you could just feel the heat radiating. But since we put the drywall up, temperature control has been infinitely better. Our energy savings on heating and air alone have already been seen in that, as well as the take advantage of that. The picture on the bottom there is our pastor, Nathaniel, which most of you guys already know or have met, but that's him sharing there. But God has really blessed us. We are nearing the max capacity even at 2 services for our facility, which has put the leadership team, which consists of myself, Nathaniel, and 4 other gentlemen who one is in the process of finishing up his correspondence courses with Masters Bible College in California in his biblical counseling career. The other 3, one was a missionaries kid who was raised kind of all over the world in New Guinea and the Philippines and kind of all over the place, who has settled in Utah. The other 2 gentlemen, one is a former Mormon who's left Mormonism, who's been involved with our church for just a year less than me, about a year after I started helping with the church in Alpine. Him and his wife decided they wanted to help with the church plan as well. And then another gentleman is from Idaho who's moved down, but that consists of our leadership team. So being at max capacity, we're at quite the crossroads is where we go now. As far as expansion, moving to multiples, another service, adding another service in somewhere, Sunday evening, Saturday evening, where does that go? Can we handle that? How do we do that? We also have started running some connection groups. What tends to happen is myself and Nathaniel can't keep track of that many people, so it's easy for a new person to come in the front door, enjoy it, but never really get involved or feel connected with any of the other people, so they just leave right out the back door, so they come in and just go right out. So we started some connection groups, which are just small groups that meet in homes. We have 3 that meet in homes of people in the church, and we have 1 that meets at the church on Wednesday nights. And so we've seen some positive results. Really, those groups have become real connection groups and become like second families to a lot of the families in the church. So as we look at potential, so this is what our church lot looks like now. If you were to drive by, this is still pretty accurate, even though it's a little older. So right now we're in the midst of, we're hoping to start in the next month or so, this phase 1 section, which is to re-blacktop our parking lot here, and do curb and gutter, continue this sidewalk around this side of the building here. Thankfully, we don't have to pay for the sidewalk on this side of the property. But one of the downsides and stipulations is the city had agreed to split the cost with us on the sidewalk and the curb and gutter there, but then they decided, well, if we're going to do the curb and gutter there, really the road needs redone. So we're going to have to split the cost with them to tear up half of this road and repave that road as well. We said, well, that doesn't seem fair. They said, okay, well, we won't split the cost with you on any of the sidewalk, and you can just pay for it. Okay, well, that's fair. So, as upset as I was about it, thankfully Nathaniel has a much leveler head in those meetings than I do with the city, I try and just calm down and let him talk, because I tend to get a little bit heated, and so he talked with him. Phase 2 will be, this is an old building. At one point we hoped we could salvage it and turn it into some office space, maybe a youth room or a youth building, but the building is so far gone and decayed that it would be more to refurbish it than to tear it down completely and start at 0. So this phase 2 is going to consist of knocking that building down and turning this area into more parking. As it sits right now, we are at the bare minimum number of parking stalls for the capacity that our building can have. So we're already kind of on the fence with the fire department on that. So we need to get some more parking spaces. These other 2 lots, there's actually 2 more lots to this property. There's this little skinny middle section and then this section on the end. So as a leadership team, one of the things we're trying to figure out is expansion possible on our current site as far as adding on to this building. The only way we can add on to the building is to eat into the parking lot. So there's potential that we try and purchase both of these lots to own this whole corner strip of property, and then we'd be able to do some expansion. You can see this little area here is an outdoor courtyard, and we're trying to, there's a process to have to go through. We're going to try and close that in, make it indoor, and turn that into an extra classroom or an office, and then do some remodeling on the inside to make Nathaniel's current office a little bit bigger to be used as a classroom. So these are all issues that, as a leadership team, we have to try and figure out what the answer is. The other answer is we can potentially split and start a new plant and plant a new church in another city, or we can do a campus and start another satellite campus of Alpine Bible Church, which runs all of the same things. We still haven't, if that's the option we go with it, figured out exactly how that works, so just more confusion. The thing that makes us very hesitant, some of the men on the leadership team very hesitant to do that, is financially we need to get to the point, we believe we need to get to the point where we can support one facility before we try and have 2. The other side of the coin is, well, if we have 2, we can get more people and then you'll be able to do more financial support that way. So it's a lot. Our leadership meetings have been getting longer and longer as these decisions keep getting bigger and bigger, but more pressing and pressing. So that's kind of where we're at as a church. God, like I said, we don't understand why or how He's using us. The church plant is under Biblical Ministries Worldwide, and they've never seen a church in Utah that's had the growth rate for as long as we have a sustained growth rate. And it's nothing special that Nathaniel does. It's nothing special that I do. It's just a humble, God, this is what you've given us. How can we best use that? And it's a faithfulness to His Word. We run a very contemporary service. Utah, by demographic, is the youngest state in the country. And so we run a very contemporary service, but we in no way dilute or take away from what God's Word says. We're very bold in that. And I often tease Nathaniel after he'll share a message on a subject that tends to be a little touchy in that area. I'll ask him, so how many people are we going to have leave today because you didn't back away from that topic, or something like that. And we have, and we still get the enjoyable emails and comments and things like that, but we haven't had anybody leave. And it's being in Utah now for almost 6 years. It always impresses me the power of God's Word. Just about, this is no research into this other than just my conversation, I would say almost half of the LDS converts that we see that are at our church now, if you ask them, what brought you out, it wasn't someone talking to them over and over. It wasn't, while those seeds helped and the ground was tilled and fertilized, it was, I had questions and I just sat down and started reading the Bible. And just them being, just reading God's Word, the truth in that and the power that has, and just us with the faithfulness to His Word, it is the only thing that, it's all a work of God as far as why we're seeing church growth the way we are. But it's been impressive to see God's power at hand through His Word in the hearts of the people there. So that's where we're at as a church and as a family. Life is busy, but it's good. We are typically financially tight. I was talking to somebody in the church the other day. They were trying to figure out, just kind of get a feel for where me and Greg were, and I told them, and they were like, "Well, that's not good. That's not normal." And I was like, "That's the way I've lived my entire life. As I did before I moved out here. Being in ministry. Dad, most of my life from when we lived in West Virginia for 10 years, worked 2 jobs, and so I just thought that was normal. That pastors were incredibly busy, never had a spare moment, and thankfully my dad instilled in me a tremendous work ethic that has given me the drive to be willing to do that. But God has always, as He has my entire life, has provided when things don't make sense. God's got it in control, and something happens. Me and Gregan had a discussion about where we were at financially. She's like, last month we went backwards this much, and we had to pull from savings, which is starting to get pretty low now. She's like, I don't know how we're going to make that up. I was like, I have no idea. 2 days later, she had an episode at church, actually. I was getting ready to preach. We showed up to church, and she had to be taken by ambulance to the hospital. So I took my notes, I handed them to one of our other leaders, and I said, "This is what I got on the passage. I don't know if that helps you, but I can't share. I'm not going to be able to preach." So, but later that day, someone brought us over dinner and said, "We just wanted to give you guys a love gift," and we didn't know why this number, but this is what we decided to give it. It was just them, just this couple out of their own pocket. It was the exact dollar amount that we had went backwards the month before. And so it's, stuff like that, seeing God provide throughout our lives is encouraging. But we have a few minutes left if anybody has any questions or anything that we didn't get to. Ron?
You mentioned the fact that you have the minimum
Not many. We actually, we actually line, our music team gets there earlier than anybody else because they got to run through all the music and make sure sound's set. But we start parking here, and we will line this entire street, fill all of the stalls we have in this lot, and then we even have some overflow people that'll park. This blank lot, all they use it for is they'll park some semi-trailers there. It's a guy who owns a trucking company. He uses it just to park some trucks every now and then. So he's allowed us to use it for overflow parking. So we actually fill everything we have along this street and even some over in this area as well. So while we are at the max minimum, we're at the minimum number we can have. We use every one of them on a Sunday. So. Yeah, in the last few weeks we've had, it was the same gentleman, assumed to be the same gentleman. We had a break-in. The first time, the last person in the church, which, you know, we don't want to point fingers or anything, we don't know, nobody's admitted to who it was, but the door didn't shut all the way behind him, and they forgot to arm the security system. So he just opened the door and kind of strolled around and found what he wanted. Really what he did that time was he scoped the place out, stole a laptop and some cash out of some of the offering boxes. Then he came back about a week later with a crowbar and broke the door open, pried the door open. But the same person was caught on security camera at our church and at a local business about 2 miles down the road. And then there was a third business that he was in the process of breaking in when someone pulled up and he took off and ran. So he's been on somewhat of a spree. But the local news actually came down and did a story on it and interviewed Nathaniel and talked about it. So the word got out there. His picture is out there. It was as we don't know why he chose our church other than it was a building that's not the best lit outside, and that back door. So this back courtyard here is where he got in. There's an opening right here that you can easily walk through. There's no door or anything, and so once you're inside this corner, really nobody from the street can see you. So he probably just saw it as an easy opportunity that he could get in. But he didn't necessarily target our church. He was targeting buildings all in that area of businesses. So. They pay me what we consider part-time, which I put in 5 dedicated hours at the office, which is what they pay me for. So I work a minimum of 5 hours at the church. So I get about $200 a month from that. So they do pay me some. Nathaniel is almost to the point where he's able to be fully supported by the church. We last year at our budget meeting, we finally, as a leadership team, just said, you know, we have to. This has to be a priority. We've had Nathaniel in the budget to be paying him, but he's either not been taking it or he would just take it and just funnel it back into the church to help pay for stuff. So he really wasn't being supported. We said that's not healthy. We have to put a stop to that. So we doubled his support. So we pay for his health insurance, and we pay for his we pay 24 goal of $24,000 a year for him, which is still in the area we live in about 16,000 under. Poverty line 40,000 is what they say the poverty line is. So for him, he still relies pretty heavily on exterior support from other places. Plus, it's one of those things. Life always seems to throw something else at you. But our goal is this year to have Nathaniel over 30,000 a year, and then they haven't really decided what's going to happen as far as my support from the church goes that way. But they do support us be perfect. Having a baby is really expensive, so with our health insurance plan, we met our max out of pocket just having the baby. So thankfully that happened before all of this, so we don't have to pay for this, for all the stuff that's been going on. There was something you can be in prayer for. The insurance company had a glitch where someone went in and canceled our policy and then reopened it, but because it was canceled and then reopened it, erased our deductibles. It says that we haven't paid anything out of pocket. So we're getting bills and collection notices from hospitals and doctors and things like that, and we're saying, no, the insurance is paying for this, we don't have to pay you, but the insurance said it can take 2-3 months to get their side cleared up. So in the meantime, we have to deal with collections and all that enjoyment. So thankfully we don't have to pay for it, but we still are having to jump through quite a few hoops because of it. So God has definitely blessed us in that, because I know a lot of people that have gone medically bankrupt and had to, they had to go declare bankruptcy because they couldn't afford their medical bills, and so God has definitely blessed us, because if it wasn't for our insurance, we would be completely and utterly sunk with no way to do anything. Savings would be gone, credit card would be completely maxed. So yeah, God has definitely